Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Conversion Ramp. This is a Decoding Digital webinar brought to you by Door 4. I'm Leon Calverley. I'm a director here at Door 4, and it's great to welcome you onto our very first episode this year. Many of you, I know, looking at those who have attended already, have been to our Real in Life event last year in 2022, and hopefully our webinar events are going to be just as informative. We run these so that we can share our knowledge, share our expertise. We like to make sure that businesses really get the benefit of the learnings that Door 4 as a performance marketing agency can share. And today I'm particularly delighted to be joined by my co-host today, Conrad Grimshaw, our conversion optimization specialist. Good morning to you, Conrad.
Morning, how are you, Leon?
I'm really good, thank you. How's the weather where you are today?
It's the same as it is where you are today.
We're about 1.5 meters apart here in our boardroom here at Door 4 in Lancashire. So today, the conversion ramp, we are going to be talking about conversion optimization, what this means for businesses, how it generates revenue, the tools, the techniques, the practices, everything that's involved. Hopefully, this will be beneficial to everybody. We know that there's a wide range of capabilities, of skills, of experiences, expertise in here. So we hope that we manage to present this in a way that is beneficial, useful, and enjoyable for everyone. So really, Conrad, we'll make a start. Let's kick off. Time is precious for all of our guests today. So do you want to give us a bit of an indication really about what CRO is, why is it important, why do businesses use it, and why it matters?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Conrad. I'm the Conversion Rate Optimisation Consultant at Door 4. I'm going to talk to you about what is CRO and why it's important to your business. We're going to go into the processes and techniques that we use at Door 4 and guide you through that, and then talk around how we analyse results and how we get the learning out of the results from there. So what is CRO and why is it important to your business? It stands for Conversion Rate Optimisation, that many of you might know. It's a process of increasing the amount of users who take a desired action on your website or a digital product. And it's typically achieved by using a combination of research and A/B testing to, when they combine, convert more users on your website, leading to more increased revenue, which is what we all want. So the main goal being that increased revenue, but will obviously make you more money. The four main drivers of that are, getting a better return on your investment. So improving the efficiency of your website, convert more of those users, but you're paying to get to your website, so you'll be paying through Google search or paid ads to get there. So why aren't you trying to improve your website to convert more of those? It's the improved customer experience. So the research you carry out doesn't play into, doesn't always apply to CRO. It can also apply to the rest of your business. So anything from product development to developing your sales tactics, really developing that product. So the uses from the research don't just, obviously they work well with the testing program, but also you can use it outside there to really develop your products and understand more about your customers. You can also get an advantage over your competition. So some of your competitors out there won't be doing CRO, and they won't be getting the same benefits to the companies who are. And some of those competitors will be. So why aren't you doing the same? Why aren't you trying to get those the better customer journey through providing a better experience, which in turn goes on and creates more revenue? And finally, we've got the cost savings. So obviously, by improving your conversion rate, you'll save more money by not having to acquire more traffic. You'll also save more money by implementing only the winning tests that are statistically proven through A/B testing, instead of just making the changes on your website. We've got a few examples later on of people who have made changes on the website without testing, and it's actually led to less income at the end of the day. So they actually would be better not doing those implementations on their site. So overall, CRO is a process that can help you increase your revenue, improve your return on investment, and provide a better customer experience, giving you that competitive edge in the market. Cool. So A/B testing is the thing that underpins the whole ethos of CRO. It helps you statistically prove your changes across the site. So you do what your control is on the website versus a variance, so a difference between the two, and then test them against each other and prove it through statistics, which one will earn you more money, essentially. The goal of an A/B test is to identify the change that will lead to that increase in a specific metric, such as purchasing a product, signing up to a form, an email capture, even a click to the next page. If you know it's a process of, a 1, 2, 3, 4 process, you can click through that to to know that they get through to that next step, and then eventually go on to convert. So there's also a thing called multivariate testing, so MVT testing. These are tests where you test multiple things at once, and this is really great. The downside to it is you need a lot more traffic, sort of enterprise level traffic, to start doing these MVT tests and test multiple things. So whilst we do them for some clients, it's a matter of how much traffic you get. So if you're considering them and you're starting out in CRO, you're better off just focusing on those singular tests and running them faster with the amount of traffic you've got. So we follow this simple process, and we'll delve more into this later. But it's a research, prioritization, experimentation, and learning. So the research is where you identify and understand what your customer needs on the site or digital product. Prioritization is where you figure out, what you should be testing first, what's going to have the highest impact. And then the experimentation, this is your on an individual test basis. We have the planning of the test, designing of the variants, and building your test variants into code on your website. And then obviously setting those tests live and making sure they're set up correctly. So then you can then go and get a result and achieve those goals that you set out for the test. And then the learnings, this is where you analyze the results. You check for significance. If the test is significant, then you go ahead and implement those, either the winning tests or the ones which don't have a positive result. You take those learnings away and then feed back into your process. So back into the research, back into that prioritization. So you'll learn a lot more by doing the tests, which may not succeed, but you learn a lot more out of those tests. Okay, so a case study here from this is sort of where A/B testing on websites came into the mainstream. So it's been done a lot before, but it's by people set up their own analytics software and really understanding the statistics behind it. So the guy who set up this campaigns for Obama went away and built a testing software called Optimizely. But he uses this case study quite a lot to explain the process. It's really, really useful to see how it sort of came into the mainstream and marketers started using it instead of just really technical-minded people. So they tested the volunteers page on an Obama campaign where users would sign up to volunteer to collect donations for the campaign. The goal was to increase sign-ups on the landing page, as they knew that would lead to more donations at the end of the day. They tested the main image on the campaign landing page and the CTA button copy to see which would have the biggest impact. So they tested the images to the left and the copy to the right, all as one test. So they tested, see which image would be the best one to produce more signups. So there was a bit of a bias in the team to understand what, from their point of view, what was the most successful. And if they'd gone with their own bias, they would have just put in the American flag video and the sign up now. So it's a really strong, hard-hitting CTA, as they thought that would be the most successful. So they decided to test it. Without testing it, they would have gone with their option, and that would have actually lost them revenue instead of just leaving it alone with the image that it had at the start with Obama and the audience behind it. Because the American flag video was the worst out of them all. It was very surprising to the team when they did test it, as it was actually the family image with the softer learn more CTA which had the most success. The winning variant had a sign-up rate of 11.6%. The original page had a sign-up rate of only 8.26%. So that's actually an improvement of 40.6% in sign-up rates. That's a massive increase for their landing page. Obviously, they're getting loads of traffic through to this page. But without testing it, they would have gone with their gut and actually had lost more money than just leaving it alone. So when they came to calculating the whole campaign, they calculated they had 10 million volunteers signed up through this landing page. And without the test, they would only had 7,120,000 would have signed up. So that's like a difference of nearly 3 million who wouldn't have actually signed up to become volunteers. And out of those 10 million who signed up, that's 10% of them became volunteers. So around 288,000 more people volunteered. And that actually led to an extra 60 million in donations. So when that was just for one test. So to see the value of that in a test like that, with a lot more people coming in, was really great. It's just obviously now you can see that repeat onto your website. Maybe with a smaller amount of users, but having that increase, 40.6% is really great. Okay, so the main benefits of A/B testing to your website is that it allows you to make data-driven decisions rather than just relying on your assumptions or guesses. There's no test is a waste of time, as you learn from both the negative and positive results. Yes, some of those other benefits, you can test a smaller version of an idea, so like a really, MVP version of it before you go and create something or build a big part of the website, which you don't actually know if it's going to have any effect or not. You'll be able to identify which changes make an impact for your customers. It can be like some of the smallest things that have the biggest impact. So I know M&S once developed a website which they changed from their old website to a new website, and they actually had a massive decrease in conversions. So there was no testing done there to see what would work and what doesn't. So it's really useful to be able to test each individual change of your website and improve it. And you're only implementing the winning variant. So unlike if you weren't testing, you might go ahead and just implement something and it doesn't work. But you only find out that once you've implemented it and waited 1-2 months. Whereas this way, you will only implement the winning variants and get the results from those variants and not implement the negative results, but learn from those results. So instead of relying on your gut instinct, you can start making changes to your website, identify what works and what doesn't, massively reducing your risk when you're making changes.
Super, that's brilliant, Conrad. Thank you for that. So I think we really like the Obama case study here in that early kind of late 2000s example, how one of the early applications of conversion optimization really led to political fundraising. I think in recent years with the Cambridge Analytica scandal or saga, however you want to talk about it, I think we really saw then how optimization not only generates more revenue, but can lead to real political change as well in the world. So that's a really good slice through kind of why we use conversion optimization, Conrad. Can we look really now at the processes, the techniques, for all our guests here this morning? How can we start to put this into practice? How can we bring this into our day-to-day businesses?
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, obviously we want to look through that process that I mentioned earlier. Cool. So I'm going to talk through that process. Obviously, we'll start with the research. I'll go through the research, prioritization, experimentation, and learn, and really talk through some of the frameworks we use at Door 4. But yeah, starting with the research. Research is a really important step, and it helps you understand your audience's needs, helps you focus on the right issues you're having with your customer. It leads to improved test accuracy. That's one of the main benefits, and it's critical for understanding, for undertaking a successful testing program. First of all, starting with sort of a high-level thinking about your website. What we want to do for users is create a friction-free experience. It's key to getting users to convert your website. So the idea of this thinking fast and slow, it's a concept from Daniel Kahneman. He's a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist who's done a lot of research into this idea and also into how the brain works and how we can use the brain and to sell more products on our website. So basically, humans have two modes of thinking. There's not two different parts of the brain. We're talking about ways of processing information. So there's a system 1, there's a system 2. So these are like operating systems of the brain, but are polar opposites from each other. They control everything you do, every decision you make in life, from relationships to your shopping behaviors online. So system 1, this is your fast brain mode. It's also called the new brain. You describe it as intuitive. You feel comfortable when you're using it. It works in your subconscious and can be very automatic and emotional. And for example, without thinking, you'll instantly know the answer to this question. What's 1 + 1? And the answer is obviously 2. You probably didn't need to think about it. You're probably all saying it in your subconscious, and it came to you instantly. Whereas the system 2, this is your slow brain mode. This is also known as the old brain. You use it. It's described by being analytical, logical. It takes a lot of effort to use, and we use it much less, as it's not as automatic. It doesn't feel natural to use. So an example of it would be thinking around. So what's 149 + 123? Instantly, it doesn't come to your brain. You're starting to figure it out. You're starting to work your brain to really find the answer. The answer is 272. That's because I used a calculator earlier. Maybe I did paper maths actually. You've just activated your slow brain by trying to figure it out. So unlike system 1, it didn't jump straight to head. You had to go to that deep analytical processing to even start to figure it out. And the same thing applies to your website, digital products and your services. So the more friction you create for your users, the more they're going to be stuck in that system 2 way of thinking. So you want to keep them as much as possible in that system 1 mode, so they keep making those effortless decisions. So these are quite extreme examples, but these are real life websites, which you may have seen before because they're used quite a lot to, I suppose, show this process. The first website is obviously much more difficult to understand of what's available, what the cost of the products are, and how to select a product. So you constantly question your decisions. You don't know if you're getting a good deal. It's not very clear, and everything isn't. It's really unconventional. So the second site, much clearer, much more conventional. It helps you make easy decisions. It's friction-free. It's fast. It's clear. You're able to just click through the process much more easily. So the way this connects that, when you think your website like that, you want to be a first step for research. Obviously, you can go into analytics, you can go into more qualitative research, but a really good step is really thinking through the heuristics of the website. So what's relevant on your sites? Have you got the right content? Have you got the right aesthetic to match your user's expectation? Think about clarity. So is your offer clear? Is the page clear? Can people understand what you're trying to sell, what the products are, and what you do as a company? Do you present value to the customer? So do you communicate value to make people, your customers, make quick decisions? That's really crucial, is that quick decision element for system 1, system 2. Same for friction here. So, is your process as simple as it can be? Is there any steps where people are having to leave or really think about the answers that they need to give? So can you make this as smooth as possible without entering that system 2 mode? And then there's distraction. So are you encouraging your users to take actions on the page by removing that excess noise, that unnecessary attention? So is the design clean? Is your website conventional? Conventionality is one big part of that. So that's a really good way of, first of all, starting up your website. We want to back that up with deeper analysis using quantitative methods and qualitative methods. But it's a really good start into understanding how to get insights from your website. Cool. So just once you've got your website to a certain point and you're quite happy, you can start thinking how you can play on the brain a little bit and really try and encourage people and persuade people to buy your product. So I'm going to run through a number of persuasion techniques now. So this one's reciprocity. I was struggling with that word, so I did well there. This is where you give something for free, but you get something back in return. So in this example, so you might, for example, you might receive a document in exchange for your contact details. And so in this example, you complete a quiz about your business, but to get the results, you have to give your contact details. So you might have started that process and then you want to get that quiz back, but you have to give your contact details. So one really good way to capture that data and persuade someone to give you information in return is something that you're after. And we have the commitment effect. So this sort of ties into that a little bit. Once you're committed to doing something, you're more likely to go through and deliver on that commitment. So sometimes starting the process is the hardest part. It helps to present a little small commitment before presenting them with a larger commitment. You'll see this happen quite a lot on like insurance websites. So this one in particular, you enter your registration. You think it's simple. You think you're going to get all that information just by entering your registration. But then there's 4 steps after that with detailed information. But once you've already started that process, it feels like you should then carry on and complete it because you've started it. We have social proof. So this one you'll see a lot about and you'll know a lot about because hopefully this is one of the elements where you've got on your site, but you could also develop this into much more further validation. So it's all about getting that validation from others. So humans are social by nature. Feels like it's important to conform to those social norms. So we'll look to other people to validate our decisions. So that's where people leave testimonials on the site. You can have reviews on your site. Even just linking you off to a review site is really useful information. So there's, where we use those customer testimonials and reviews to really encourage users to trust you, your company, and your products. And then scarcity. So it's when you believe something in short supply and you want it more. So this can be done using either quantity or time. I know like Amazon's really good at this, Booking.com really good at this. So, a hotel booking website, they use a lot of scarcity throughout. So give me the discount based on a limited time available. So you only have 1 room left, or the deal's only available for 1-2 days. So you're already thinking, oh, I must get that now. Same with Amazon, they do the same thing with their deals. They're always putting deals, put it really expensive, and you can see the difference. So it's really understanding those offers. to understand the limited time frame. Cool. Going into prioritize. So think about that. The research. Obviously, you could go much more deep. We would like to go into the quantitative and the qualitative research and really make them all work together. But say you've got some insights from that research, then you want to think about prioritization. And prioritization is a process of determining the order or priority that your objectives are, and tasks should be to get the most out of them. So the goal of prioritization is to ensure that the resources and attention are always directed towards the most important and critical items first, thereby maximizing your efficiency and being more effective, in turn making more revenue. So you want to identify those high impact areas. You want to understand the ease of the implementation. If it's going to take 4 years, it might not be worth doing, whereas you want to be targeting those high impact areas. Something that's relatively easy and high impact would be excellent. And then you want to be testing those most important hypotheses first. So before I go into the prioritization matrix, the Pareto principle applies to testing as well. So Pareto principle means 20% of your actions will give you 80% of the results. It's a matter of, so in testing, it's a matter of finding what those actions are that will give you the most impact. So that 20% and really trying to discover that through your research, and then prioritizing them at this stage. So this can apply at a page level. So 20% of your pages can be responsible for 80% of your conversion. So in the first instance, you should be looking to optimize those key pages instead of just targeting the whole site and doing stuff in areas where people currently don't convert or aren't encouraged to buy a product. They can also apply at a customer level. So 20% of customers can be responsible for 80% of the purchases. So you can be focusing on the needs of those high value customers to really understand why those customers purchase, and then optimize your website for that reason. So it's effective prioritization is key to understanding where you are and what you should be doing in terms of testing, and maximize the results to maximize your results as fast as possible. So for your research, you'll have an idea of what you want to test and where those tests may take place. So understanding which areas of the pages of the site you can test. So what has the acceptable amount of traffic for getting a significant result? And you want to understand which areas you should be testing first. So what will be the most effective? So a common framework, well, two common frameworks here. So we've got the PI framework. So this helps you understand where to test and which page you should be testing on. So it stands for potential, importance, ease. So it's potential is how much improvement can be made on the web page. The importance is how valuable that page is, so how much traffic it gets to it, and does it convert already? And then ease is how complicated it would be to make changes to that page or template. The ICE model works slightly different, and they can sort of work in tandem. The ICE model helps you understand which tests you should run first. So which individual tests stands for impact, confidence, and effort. So how much does the idea contribute to your goal? And the confidence is how confident you think. How confident are you that it will work as an idea? And then the effort is, again, how easy is it to implement that test from a technical standpoint. So at Door4, we use our own prioritization matrix. It's sort of a bit of a combination of PI, ICE, and some additional features that help us build tests. So we're trying, but again, it's all just trying to focus on those highest value areas, highest value ideas, and then create the test, identify the tests that will have the most impact, but also that are relatively straightforward to implement within a certain time frame. There's like a sweet point of where you get all three, and then you start building out those other areas. So we split the test up, split our test ideas up into sort of the following sections. We define the test. We develop our ideas against the problem statement and build a test hypothesis. We think about the duration, so how long the test should run based on current traffic levels in a certain area or for a certain page template, or when we got higher traffic at a component level. We think about the actions, so how noticeable the test is going to be. So is it above the fold? Is it on a key page? Or is it at the bottom of the page in the footer? Really useful to know. We think about what evidence it has, so about the research we've carried out, how that feeds into this. So obviously, more ideas with better research have a much more higher chance of winning, because you already know that it's not just a random assumption or an idea which is pulled out of thin air. And then we have a feasibility. So how easy is it to implement the resources we have available? So yeah, we go on to score each of those individual sections and prioritize them logically instead of just picking and choosing. Cool. So yeah, that's the prioritization step. So you want to be testing that the highest potential, easiest to implement, and the most sort of successful ideas possible, and starting there, and obviously building that with more research. So you might never get some of those really low ideas because you're always inputting new research into that matrix. Cool. So then we have the experimentation step. So this is where we build each individual test. So we have a sort of plan, design, and build step. So plans where we set up the test. Design is where we create the variants, so that we have the control, which is already there, and then we create 1 or 2 or 3 additional variants. And then the build is where we develop the variants into code. So build them into the website, either using the testing tool into JavaScript, or building them straight into the website and using the testing tool to activate those different variants on the website. Cool. So the breakdown of the test, so an individual A/B test typically works by this sort of method. So we have defining the goal of the test. So its first step is to identify the metrics you want to improve, such as the overall conversion rate, but you can also have secondary and tertiary goals, such as signing up for an email sign up form. Then we have creating the variants, so creating 2 different versions. The next step is to create those 2 versions of a web page or an app or a digital product, with one version being the control and the second version being a variant with a change. So the variants can be small, such as a change in the color of a button, or more significant, such as a complete redesign of a section of the page. Then we divide traffic to those variants equally. So and then feed that into a testing software such as Google Optimize, VWO. And then we collect that data. So once the test is running, we're collecting that data. It runs for a period of time, which you should have identified when you're building your test. Yeah, and then you analyze your results. So after the test is run for a certain amount of time, you should eventually hit a significant point and understand if your results have a positive effect or a negative effect, and then really take those results out and then learn from them. Microphone issue. Cool. So to build a successful test, you need to make sure you have a robust test plan. So this includes a problem statement. So a problem statement outlined in your research. You've got hypothesis. So an assumption that works by targeting what your users want to change and then predicting the outcome of making a variation. So it's if I change this, will it have an effect? That's the question you should be asking yourself when you think about hypothesis. There's a few good hypothesis builders out there, so it's worth starting with one of those and then building them out for your business and how you would like to work with those. And then it's understanding which pages you should test on. So pages are really important. Do you know? So first of all, it's how much traffic that goes to those pages. So traffic's a big part of it. But it's also understanding, should you be doing it at a template level? Should you be doing it at a group level? So if you sold lawnmowers, should you be just targeting the lawnmower section or lawnmowers and other tools? Yeah. And then the goals is really important. So understanding what the goal of the test is. So conversion rate is always high up on the list, is understanding what that end goal is. But for some sites where they don't get enough traffic, you can think about those secondary goals in terms of getting to that next step or getting to a certain point on the website. So go from the home page and can we get users from the home page into product pages? Because we know product pages are where people convert. So what you really want to do is calculate how long your test is going to take using a pre-test calculator. So you've got to think about the traffic. So understanding the sample size needed for the test. You want to think about the length. So how long the test should be running for. And also think about how you detect the difference between that. So there's some really good pre-test calculators out there. I really like the one from CXL. Really details this, and just once you've started running some tests, it would be really helpful to use one of those calculators to really understand how the testing works and how the statistics of that work. And setting up a test is a really big part of it. So detecting the minimal difference between, so the minimal detectable effect. So you can search for the results and to actually prove when it's going to be significant. Cool. So once you've got your test plan, you want to start developing your variants. So you've got a problem statement, you've got your idea and what you want to do. Then you can start wireframing out some ideas, and then start to build a design to solve that particular problem. So this is the example here is for a bit of a lower traffic site. So we've opted to make bigger changes on a template level rather than micro changes to header or copy here. So what we want to do is improve the structure and the aesthetic of a really key wayfinding page. We've done this because a previous test where we consolidated the menu was so successful, but it's actually informs where users want to go on our website. So we really tried to think around the same structure as what we used on a previous test to one of our key wayfinding pages. So one of the frameworks we use at Door 4 is called FACTS. So when we categorize the types of tests we need to do to improve a certain web page, we find that tests usually fall under one of these 4 pillars. So FACTS stands for function, aesthetic, content, and structure. So function is how it works. So is it, creating easy user journeys by improving, ensuring a smooth, reliable website performance. So it's what happens behind the scenes and how your website is built and the functionality of that website. We have aesthetic, so it's how the website looks from a visual standpoint, and beyond that is how the aesthetic is used to influence user behavior, such as using different types of colors and different layouts and visual cues, in a visual context. And then we have content, so that's what the story of your site, so what's on the site. It speaks to the beliefs and motivation of your audience and really resonates with your audience, and improving that content to inform and also explain the process of your business and your products. And then we have structure. So this sort of, we broke into 3 sections. You can have website structure, so the overall site map element. You can have page structure, so thinking around the order and hierarchy of your pages. And then you've got sort of the component structure, so how your components are built and how you change those components to show off the right information for your customers to make them more sales. So once you've optimized each sort of pillar of facts, the facts framework across your website, that's when you start seeing those results. And it's when you're thinking about building your test, you should be thinking around what type of test it is. So is it a functional test? Is that going to get a result? Is it an aesthetic test? Is it a content? And then sometimes it can be a combination of both, so structural and aesthetic test. You have to really think around that to really understand where you're trying to improve those web pages. So keeping facts in mind when you're thinking about what you should be testing, and the product page, for instance, or where you sell your product is where all your users are eventually going to touch before making a purchase. So I like to split up into sort of 3 sections. We have the buy section, we have informational components, and we have navigational components. So the buy section is like that top section of the page that includes all those key elements that a customer who knows about the product needs to then go and buy it. So obviously the price, understanding it's the right product, being able to see it if it's a visual product, and not having that add to basket button there as well to know where to buy the product. So you can start thinking about what tests you can run on those elements to really help relieve the friction for your customers and really give them the right information so they don't enter that system 2 mindset of having to think around, oh, is this the right product? So this example is a laptop. If you don't know how much RAM it's got from its title, then you might not be able to go and buy it until you go and search in the specs or go and search in other pages. And then you might not easily be able to get the amount of RAM you want. It might be a 4, this might be a page for the 4, but the 6 is somewhere else and it's not linked. So we have informational content. So this is all the information that a customer needs to consider purchasing the product from you. So they might not be at that buy stage yet, but they're at that consideration stage. So they might be looking for more information around your product. So this is your product information. So this is what encourages the user to buy a certain product. Then we have company information. This is what encourages the user to buy the product with you. And then we have customer trust information. So this is encouragement from those other users, but they've had a good experience with you, but also had a good experience with your product and had a good experience with your service team. And then finally, we have the navigational components. So this is how people navigate through the site and really maneuver around your site. So obviously, if they land on a page, on a product page, and they don't want that product, they can either leave or we can navigate them somewhere else, which they might want to go to, discover more products, discover similar products. So really think around how people can navigate through there. So some of the standard versions of doing that is through breadcrumbs. So knowing where you are on the site and being able to navigate back to sections. So in this example, it would be from a certain laptop to the laptop section. When you've got recently viewed, so this is where you have clicked on other products and you can easily get back to products. So if you're really good for comparisons, being able to see the product you've just been on, but also compare it to a new product, especially with something like laptops again, where there's just unique differences between models. And then related products. So this is finding similar products which might interest you. So if you're not ready to purchase that, then you look at the other products on the website. You can get really creative by testing these areas and what you should be displaying in those navigational components, such as giving additional routes to even a completely different subset of products, but it's slightly related, or just completely different areas of the website as well. So it could be a good way of getting people into the site, look at a specific product, then target them for other products which you sell if you sell a range. So testing is the only way you're going to be able to find out what works in these sections on your product page. Really, really key area for testing. Okay.
Super. Well, thank you, Conrad. I think that shows the variety and the scope of the changes that we can make and those places that we can optimize on websites, digital services. We always joke here, really, that the work that we do in optimization is competing with the HIPPO, which is the unvalidated opinion of the hired paid person in the office. So once we've got that work underway, how do we start to measure the results? How do we look at the winners? How do we work out whether the tests that we've actually implemented are actually delivering solid results and uplift?
Yeah. Okay. So talking about results. So after a period of time, you'd have your test set up. You've got to the point where you've done your pre-test calculation to understand whereabouts your test should be getting a significant result. And I've broken sort of results down into 4 sections. So we've got testing the results. So this analysing your results from your testing software. We've got statistical significance, so understanding if your test has a detectable winner or not. We've got the supporting data. So this is where you feed your test from the testing software into analytics to really be able to break down and segment that data. And then we have test and learn. So understanding the whole picture and how your test can influence decision making, not just in the testing area, but across the business as well. So based on test results, if your test was set up correctly, it'll be much easier to understand your results. So you've got to remember to make a problem statement, a hypothesis, understand the pages you're working on, understanding the goals. So what goals were set up and what you're trying to achieve out of that test. And your hypothesis should encapsulate all that. So you also need to calculate how long your test should run using a pre-test calculator. So if you haven't, you won't know how much traffic you'll need to be able to find a detectable result. So your test might never reach a conclusion. And there's no magic number. It's crucial that you do the pre-test analysis before you start the test. Otherwise, you won't know how long it's going to be running for. And you really want to be able to trust the results. So understanding that statistical side of it is really useful. So when you know how long your test is going to run for, you shouldn't be constantly checking the test. I think it's called the peaking problem. And it's the idea is if you analyze your test results before it's finished, you have more chance of concluding the test early based on, it's looking like it's going to win. But that's not how statistics works. You need to trust the data and let it run for the allotted amount of time that you've been given from the pre-test analysis. So when it's time to check, you need to be checking the sample size. So to make sure you've got enough traffic to detect the changes between the variants, you want to be looking at the run length. So this changes based on who you are as a business. So you should be looking at, from our point of view, you should be looking at running a test for at least 2 weeks at minimum. Some people do 1, but having that 1 week worth of data, you really factors in the changes throughout your business, throughout the week and the weekend, and what's the differences. So the longer the better, but also you don't want to be running tests so long. So we tend to stick to a 2 weeks minimum. And then sample ratio mismatch. So making sure both of your variants have a similar amount of visitors to each. And this will be an issue. If you don't have this, it'll be an issue with the way you've set up your testing software. And if those are different, then your testing data will be skewed. So you'd have to investigate how you set up your testing software to really understand that. But yeah, those are some key areas to look out for when setting up, you're starting to analyze your results in your testing tool. So once you consider that your tests have all gone well, you want to be checking your test for statistical significance. And so this refers to the likelihood that the difference in the performance between the control and the variation is not due to a random variation. So, or random chance. It's important to note that statistical significance alone isn't enough to determine whether your test should be implemented. So you need to consider, some practical significance for the effect size. This is the size of the change in the conversion rate. So you should have understood that what you change, you were looking to detect from your pre-test analysis. So you'll have an idea around what you can detect in terms of difference of change between the control and the variant. You also have to consider that a small change with a high level of significance may also not be worth implementing, because it might not have a meaningful impact on your business because it's such a minute change. So you have to consider a lot of this when analyzing the test. So if you don't set up your test correctly from the start, you're leaving yourself more susceptible to type 1 and type 2 errors. So type 1 is a false positive. It's the identifying the difference between the control and the variant are significant, even though there's no actual positive change. Then there's a type 2, so this is a false negative. It's identifying the difference between control and the variant aren't significant, even though it was. So you can get into a trap where you think something has worked and you implement it, but it hasn't actually had any noticeable difference. You can do it the other way, where you don't think something's worked, but it's actually made a significant difference, but you haven't been able to identify it. So really getting into the details of this is really, really crucial to understanding testing. One of the key things here is thinking about the supporting data. So you've got your results from your testing tool, but don't just take the results from your testing tool and say that's right. You should be also plugging in your data into an analytics tool, such as Google Analytics. So while your testing tool may tell you which variant has won, GA has the power to then segment that data to really help you understand what the broader picture is. So why and how your test has won, if it's working across devices, if it's working for a certain audience. So those additional pieces of information really help you understand your test and help you inform future tests, understanding your audience. So we've had an example before where we've had a successful test, and then when we delved into the data, we found it was really successful on desktop, but it actually had a negative effect on mobile. So we could then go away. If you spot these in your test, you can then go away and fix some issue across the mobile thing, or it might be, but it's down to different types of users on mobile and desktop. But then you can go and fix those and get an even better result. So it's just really breaking down those tests into segments and really understanding how your test is won and why it's won. Cool. And then we have a test and learn. So a negative result in A/B testing can actually be a really valuable learning experience, providing you valuable insights that you can use across your business.
Super, thanks, Conrad. So one of the measures that we always use to test whether our own conversion rate optimization events have been successful is whether we've managed to get the phrase statistical significance out without any major barriers. And I think you did really well. So yeah, there's a lot of, we've got our hypothesis, we've got our principles. A lot of people will be thinking, well, how does this work in practice? And whilst Decoding Digital is never really an opportunity, it's never really a pitch for Door4, we try to make it more about education. Shall we just walk through a couple of examples where we've actually used it in this business in real life with real clients to actually impact on their businesses?
Yeah, let's do it. So starting off with Nuts Group, these are a leading retailer of car parts and accessories. They have a number of websites dealing with selling car parts and so on. But this example, we're looking at car touch-up paints, and they do a really good job of selling paints. Have a really neat website of displaying those products. So this study, so who they are, they sell car touch-up paints. So in terms of like a pen, a bottle, an aerosol. And what we did is we did a series of tests centered around trying to increase AOV and education around giving information so they can then buy additional products. And we saw a really good increase in AOV over a period of time. So their goal was to improve AOB through cross-selling and upselling opportunities, while also educating to encourage a full solution purchase rather than just people buying single products. Because what they were originally really good at was selling those singular products for people who just wanted to get a product and try it out, when actually to do a professional job, you needed a few more additional products depending on your type of damage. So we tested a number of tests that looked at sort of cross-selling. So one of the key ones was we tried to sell additional products such as lacquers and primers, because for certain types of damage, you'll need a primer if you've got rust damage, and also to finish correctly, you'll sometimes need a lacquer to make that sort of shiny chic finish. The other area we targeted was looking at selling supplementary products, so selling cloths and selling masking tape and selling sandpaper for certain types of jobs, and really giving the education around that. And then a key one was also upselling products. So like I said, the pen was really, this is just a really easy choice to go and buy, but some people need to do a bigger area or do more or a section or want a different type of applicator. So then they have the option of the bottle. So it's usually the big size, or the aerosol in terms of the spray. Or they might even need a kit, so including the primer, lacquer, and the products. And through this, we achieved a 16% increase in AOB over an 18-month period. So what we did, so we introduced, one of the key sort of tests we did was introducing a cross-sell step. Is that you're displaying matching lacquers, primers, and accessories. So the supplementary products to the color match paint product, and then testing then a follow-on test was to test the content within that to really explain why you might need that product. So if you can see rust in your car, you should then go and buy the primer. If you need that shiny finish, you then go and buy the lacquer. So it's really that education on the same step. So we did a couple more sort of optimizations in this area to really optimize it for people. Once we'd seen success of implementing the functionality, then we can test the content, test the aesthetic, and then test the structure of the components to really resonate with those customers. We also added product information to explain how to do a professional job. So this was missing throughout the site in terms of giving explanations to why you would need a certain product, why you might need a primer, why you might need a lacquer, and explaining the needs for that. So yes, some people will just need the pen, but ideally, to do a professional job, you can go away and buy the lacquer. So that education throughout the journey is really key to for people to actually know that they need these products. They will come into the site, they're going to just get a touch up. When they want to do the additional things, they would manage to then anyway. So we used the learnings from this test to build out bundles and kits. We tested led to more optimization of the whole product range. So we used those learnings from our test into building out bundles of products. So we noticed that people might want to, instead of finding the primer, the lacquer themselves, they can then go and buy the bundle instead for a bit of a cheaper price. So it's how we sell those products as bundles instead of just giving them the product catalog and find it yourself in a giant grid of products. Really key to optimizing this section. Cool. So we also have another case study from National Fostering Group. So this is the UK's largest independent fostering agency. And what we did was we introduced a lead generating pre-qualifying tool to the website alongside their usual inquiry process. And what we saw was a really good increase in conversion rate by introducing this sort of lead generating tool by 28%. So the idea, the goal was to increase the number of quality leads who had a higher chance of becoming an approved foster care. And our solution to that was by implementing this Can I Foster tool. So it's using by improving your website, by looking at the facts, we examined the 4 sort of key areas of our UX best practice: the functionality, the aesthetic, the content, and structure, to really guide the user journey. So we tested some content and messaging on the eligibility tool and really optimized it to qualify those leads, but also create more leads. So we've got some examples here. So what we did is, first of all, we introduced the Can I Foster tools. It's like a quiz instead of just a form. So we had the inquiry form on the site on a different page, but we introduced this quiz, and the idea that people gave us information around their experience to then lead onto a form and fill it in. So we had a really strong conversion rate improvement in both our variants here. So we implemented 2 of the same sort of journeys, but then changed the content throughout. But we saw a larger input when we were talking about eligibility, because we were found from the research that people wanted to know if they could be a foster carer. This is where this sort of "can I foster" tool came from. So we provided evidence for moving towards a business approach where higher quality leads could be prioritized and contacted first. Cool. So we did this by building this so yeah, first of all, we built the CTA. We built the "Can I Foster" quiz, and then when we realized that worked, it actually worked much better than our inquiry form, getting new people introduced and giving us their details. So then we thought around, instead of just directing people to the inquiry form, we want to then direct people from different pages into the "Can I Foster" journey. So we started testing the CTA blocks to understand, to make people understand if they are eligible or not at that early stage when they're looking, and then they can go and adapt that to then become eligible. So we saw a really good uplift again, backing up those, who can utilize the "Can I Foster" tool, and then who tend to go on to convert. So really sending more users through that, and we saw a really good uplift from people who used to go to the inquiry form now going to the "Can I Foster" journey. We got to the point where we're actually getting a lot of leads through the calls, but the call center was had a certain specific requirement, and they're getting quite a lot of people who didn't meet those specific requirements for becoming a foster carer. So there was a number of them couldn't apply. So we wanted to be much smarter with our form, with our quiz, to really sort of qualify some of those leads. So we wanted to improve the quality of the leads we were getting through the form to understand who the call center should be calling first. So we introduced a qualifier question to separate users who could and then couldn't to different forms. So to provide a more customized experience for each of those user types. And then one such qualifier is the need to have a spare room to become a foster carer. So we use this quiz to ask the question, do you have a spare room? So, as well as informing potential foster care inquirers that they need a spare room at that early stage. So we're also asking them for us to know who we should be calling first. And we could then go on to serve a different form on whether they met the requirements or they didn't, giving each set of inquiries a different personalised experience.
That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much for that, Conrad. I hope that's been useful and entertaining for all of our guests here this morning. And it goes without saying that Door4, as a conversion optimization agency, are here to help if there's anything that we can do to help. We're an agency where we have a solid team. Conrad is one of our key specialists. We have the ability to design, plan, implement, and then iterate those tests for our clients. So that really brings us to the end of today's webinar. We hope it's been really, really useful for you. Just a couple of things before we carry on. I'll just ask Conrad to go to the next slide on there. Thank you so much. We've got a downloadable guide which we've got for you to see some of the summaries from today's presentation. And if you want to have a recap of some of the topics that we've covered, then Conrad and David and myself will be really, really happy to have a recap session with you. And we'll be sending out an email to all the participants today so that you can get that booked in. And finally, we'd really love your feedback from today with the tech, with the speakers, with the content, how easy it was to get in. There might have been a couple of gremlins right at the beginning. Hopefully they weren't too significant. And just to incentivize that, we've got a £50 Amazon voucher for one of the people that fill in the feedback form. So fill in the feedback and we'll draw somebody at random as a winner. That really brings us to a close. Thanks everyone for your time. There's only one final thing, finally, is we'd really love you to join us for our next event in March, where we'll be talking about analytics. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.